Now let's all be polite and give whatever it is up there a nice, big Andy's Room welcome.
This is Woody from Toy Story, first appearing on our screens in 1995. Woody is one of the oldest Pixar characters to date, and since then he has become a staple of Pixar. But what makes Woody interesting as a character? Why do we like him? What stops him from being just another stereotypical animated character that even before Toy Story, we had seen plenty of? Now, sure, you could put it all down to him having a wonderful performance from Tom Hanks, who does give such an endearing performance and a range of personality for him, but I think it's more than that. Woody is one of the most complex characters in Pixar history. He has layers of character and goes through many arcs throughout his 4-film franchise. And while his last film is considered questionable with some of Woody's choices, it's still part of his character, which we will get into later. So let's break down our favourite cowboy, Woody. Welcome to Pixar Profiles. So Woody starts out as Andy's favourite toy and has gone through a lot of changes even before he hit the main screen. His character was initially designed to be a ventriloquist type doll and was changed massively, as at the start they found Woody to be quite scary and incredibly negative and angry during most of his initial scenes. And while the Woody we see on screen is obviously very different from that first draft, there are flutters of that original character deep in the final cut. The first one being is Woody's anger. Out of all the Pixar characters, he's the one who's probably getting the most frustrated and angry. In the first movie, Woody spends a lot of his time frustrated with the rest of the toys due to how incompetent some of them are, his frustration with Buzz with him replacing him as Andy's favourite toy, and just the annoyance at Buzz's delirious idea that he thinks he's a real space ranger. But why do these traits support the character in a positive way? In most characters, people who are jealous, quick to anger, and perhaps take life a little too seriously don't appear to be good traits for anyone. Woody is presented as a character for the audience to look through. While Buzz's delusions of being real are funny, looking from Woody's point of view, it would kind of annoy anyone. The only reason it becomes more annoying for him than the other toys is because of his jealousy. This not only creates a lot of humour for the film, but it allows us to understand Woody. He's smart, he's level-headed, and he isn't as easily swayed like the rest of the toys. These traits make him relatable. For adults, and especially kids, jealousy and the fact that he has more grounded attributes are simply just more relatable. Despite Woody being a toy, he shows some of the most human characteristics ever put on screen. Woody is also quite a selfish character, performing a lot of selfish acts. Despite essentially being the film's main character, he spends the first half of the movie being his own antagonist. It isn't until Sid is introduced later in the movie that his character is shifted back to full protagonist. His actions of knocking Buzz out of the window and generally more serious personality give him all the characteristics of being a version of an antagonist. His arc in the first movie links with Buzz's as they help each other, giving him a great arc for the first film, and it's his selfish actions that move us on to the second film. In Toy Story 2, we see that Woody isn't as angry all the time. This is the version of Woody who is more light-hearted and funny, and while he's not as harsh to Buzz and the other toys, he still has his frustration, as he stresses about everything being perfect for when him and Andy go to cowboy camp. But as the plot continues, Woody finds himself butting heads with Jessie during the movie, and while we understand both sides, with Jessie not wanting to go back into storage, we also understand Woody wanting to get home to Andy. But this is where Woody's loyalty is questioned, as Stinky Pete convinces him to stay due to telling him that does he really think that Andy is going to college with him? Which is funny considering what we know now. Ooh, spoilers! But Stinky Pete reminds him that Andy is growing up, and it is here that once again Woody does a selfish act. Worried about his time with Andy and his friends not having much time left, he decides to stay. Woody's selfish acts just make him all the more relatable, because we have seen him as a leader, as a friend, and as a toy for Andy. Everything he does for other people. And this is the first time he does something for himself without hurting anyone too much. Of course, when Buzz comes to rescue him, he is then reminded of wanting to be with Andy right up until the end. He asks the Roundup gang to join him, and despite Jessie's reluctance to go, he is reminded of his purpose in life to make a child happy, and even though he's happy with his choice, he does a selfless act for the sake of Andy and the Roundup gang. Woody's character in the second movie makes for some of the most character work in a Pixar movie, as not only does his decision weigh on him as he switches back and forth with what to do, but even by the end of the movie when Buzz asks him if he's worried about Andy, he understands it is inevitable that Andy will leave them, but just decides to enjoy every moment with him. He understands things aren't forever, but for the sake of others, he must do it. We then move on to the movie's third movie, where Woody must make one of the hardest decisions he has to make. Toy Story 3 essentially starts out where we last left them. I don't mean that from a time point of view, but from where Woody was thinking. He knew that Andy would be leaving for college, and what would they do when it happens? Toy Story 3 is essentially Toy Story 2, but in reverse. Instead of Woody being the one who wants to move on, it's the rest of the gang. When presented of how life is at Sunnyside Daycare, Woody believes exactly what he was told in Toy Story 2, that he was going to be there for Andy. But this creates a great friction in the group as Woody was placed in Andy's box to go to college with him. So yeah! Suck it, Stinky Pete!
Do you really think Andy is going to take you to college?
Yes! Yes, he will, Stinky Pete! And while the film essentially plays out like a Prison Break movie, Woody's loyalty to Andy is not only admirable, but it reflects his entire arc so far that he would be there for Andy. But then obviously, the inevitable happens. Woody is reminded of his purpose. Despite all being accepted from his friends that he can go with Andy to college, what does he once again do? He performs a selfless act, once again, to be there for his friends and to make another child happy. This being Bonnie. With one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in animated history, we're reminded with Andy's words of why Woody is so special.
He's brave, like a cowboy should be, and kind and smart. But the thing that makes Woody special is he'll never give up on you.
All right, now it's getting mushy. We're out of here.
Despite it being a bittersweet ending as we watch Andy drive into the sunset, it reminds us of what Woody goes through every time. Even though he's hurt, he knows it's the right thing to do. And now we get onto the bit that people might disagree with me. We then move on to Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 is perhaps one of the most divisive movies ever. Most agree the film is very funny and the animation is the best it's ever looked, but people really disagree on the ending. And while I agree that Toy Story 3 should have ended the entire series, I find Toy Story 4's decisions to be a good one. We have learned that Woody is one of the most relatable, down-to-earth characters. He gets frustrated, jealous, his loyalty to his friends is incredible, and above all, he is incredibly selfless when it counts. So throughout Toy Story 4, Woody is tested beyond his limits, where he has to look after Forky, who despite being literally just a spork with stringy arms, somehow becomes Bonnie's new favourite toy. We once again see his frustration. How could a toy which is made up of such basic materials become Bonnie's favourite? I mean, at least in Toy Story 1, Buzz was the coolest toy ever. But this guy? And so Woody has to once again be selfless and look after Forky. It isn't until we get reintroduced to an old friend that Woody sees another view on life. Bo Peep is the catalyst for Woody to do something for himself. Throughout every single one of these films, Woody gets tested and finally gets the final test. He decides to do something for himself. And whether you agree or disagree on Woody's choice during this movie, I think it comes down to what you believe is the right thing to do. On one hand, you have a character whose loyalty has always been tested, and whose actions have always been for the sake of everyone else. On the other hand, you have a character whose actions have always been for the sake of others, even over his own happiness. For me, the ending of Toy Story 4 rounds Woody back to his time in Toy Story 1, where he is a selfish character, and while he learns throughout this entire franchise to put others above him, in the end, choosing his happiness when no one can get hurt rounds his character. Forky gets to be with Bonnie, Buzz promises to look after everyone, and Woody gets to be happy with the person he loves. A small selfish act shouldn't knock a film down after everything Woody has done. I think that's what makes Woody a special character. He doesn't do what a stereotypical lead character should do. This one selfish act once again makes him all the more believable and relatable. Whether you like this ending or not, I think we can all agree Woody is one of the most complex characters ever. He has gone through so many changes to make him as believable and realistic as possible. He gets angry, he gets annoyed, he's funny, he's just the average toy trying to do what he thinks is right. And giving him one selfish act to make him happy after everything he has done? I'm not going to reprimand him for that. These layers of character are what make him interesting. He's never the same in every scene in every movie. He changes, he learns, he makes mistakes. I think we can all strive to be like Woody. Not because he's loyal, brave, and a good friend, but because he's believable. Despite being a toy and being animated, he's one of the most relatable and realistic characters ever. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure to pop your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more great content on all things animation, and it helps if you click one of the videos being recommended for you on screen. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms, and you can join the Discord group so we can chat more on there, and you can even make suggestions for future videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.